Hello! In this tutorial I will show you how to use project management software. We will use ProjectLibre, free and open source alternative to expensive Microsoft project. It's available on Windows, Linux and Mac OS. So let's start. Here you can see the main screen of ProjectLibre. You can see different toolbars that are very similar to what you have in Microsoft Office applications. Here you have File menu and different options for that. Save, open, new, save as, close, print, preview, save as PDF, and actually button to open a list of open projects if you have several projects open at the same time. Then you have information of the project, calendar specific to this project, project dialog, save, clear baseline, and update the project. Next panel here is task. And here you can see different operations that you can do with tasks, and we will see in details what you can do with any task in this software later. Here we have resources. This software allows you to manage different resources, so you can assign your tasks to specific people or calculate how many resources, some materials for example, you need for successful completion of the project. On the view panel you can switch between different modes. The main one is Gantt chart, you will see it. The network view is very similar to PERT chart. WBS is work breakdown structure, a special view in this application where you can see structure and hierarchy of different tasks. Task usage window and different views related to resources. You can have a list of resources. Here you can see resource breakdown structure. Here we have resource usage. Then again you can switch between different projects and see report and specific sub-views that can be useful for different tasks like resource leveling. Before we start our project, we need to know how to switch between different languages of user interface, because I will show you everything in English and probably you will have a localized version of your Windows installation, so you will have to switch default language of ProjectLibre. Unfortunately, ProjectLibre does not provide any special window where you can set language of this application, so we need to use some tricks. First of all, you need to go to drive where your Windows is installed. So usually it's C. You go to C drive, you go to users folder. So it's C users. I have localized version. Go to your name and you need to create this folder. You can see it's called .projectlibre. I will delete it so we can follow the process of setting the default language. So I delete it. And first of all, we need to create this folder. Unfortunately, in some versions of Windows, you'll find that you cannot create folders that are named with dot at the beginning. So in this situation, you need to go to File, launch Windows PowerShell, or in older versions, you can have launch command line. It's almost the same in this situation. So first of all, we need to type the command to create a directory or folder, it's the same. The command is called makedir, and we type the name. Press enter, and that's all. So we have this folder created. We can close this window. Then we go to this folder, and here we need to create special file. We create text file. Please do not try to create Word file or any kind of word processing software file. We need plain text, so what is called txt usually in Windows, or just plain text file in other systems. So the needed name is projectlibre.conf. This is configuration file, as you can understand. Yes, you confirm that you change from txt to conf, and you open it in any kind of text editor. I open it in Visual Studio Code, you can open it with Notepad application, and it's the same. And in this file we need to write down the following line: local is equal to n. And that's all. We need to save this file, and next time we launch our ProjectLibre, it will be in English. So let's start our first project in ProjectLibre. To start a new project, you need to press a button called New, and this window will appear. Here you can write project name. Let's call it development. In this video I will use example of software development project, which is very common and it will be very useful for you to know. So we type project name, we type manager's name, I will type my name, and start date. As a start date we can choose any date in the future, of course. For example, we can start from next Monday. We'll click OK. And here you have two different panels. First one is table of all tasks, and the right side is Gantt chart. ProjectLibre is not suitable for managing agile project when you have some sprints or cycles. Usually it is used for simple projects with subsequent tasks. In some cases you can use project management software for agile projects. For example, in modern versions of Microsoft Project you will have special tools for agile methodology. So let's define different tasks that we need to successfully complete our project. In software development, in traditional so-called waterfall model, we start from so-called requirement analysis. Next large section in any project with software development is called design stage. So design. Next large section of any project in software development is implementation. This stage is usually devoted to coding of all features. Next is testing. And the last one here is deployment. So we added 5 tasks, and we see that each task by default has duration of 1 day, and the start of this project is our start date that we defined at the initial stage of initialization of this project. So in this list we can add another tasks between existing tasks. Sometimes you need to add something new, and in this case we need to create more detailed structure of our tasks. So in this situation you can go to Task tab on toolbar and click Insert, and it will insert a task higher than your selected task. So I selected design, and then I pressed insert, and a new task was inserted on top of the design stage. Actually, let's add more tasks, and I will write down here some steps in requirement analysis. First step here is market research. Next one is brainstorming. So development team will use brainstorming method to find out some ideas of what features are needed and so on. Next one is feature list development. So if you have some brainstorm analysis, you can create a list of needed features of this software. Next step is cost estimation. Usually in requirement analysis stage, we need to define all our costs that we plan to have in the future during this project implementation. Cost analysis. And also we can create a list of features of our graphical user interface, for example. Here we have 2 rows that were unused. We can just delete them. So we have these tasks that are like subtasks of requirement analysis. To make them subtasks, we use a button called indent. We select different tasks. You can just drag your mouse, or you can use a Shift key. So press Shift and select first one and the last one. Or you can use Control key to select several tasks that are not subsequent. So let's press indent, and you can see that requirement analysis changed appearance in this chart from red to black bar, and all these tasks now are can be folded here inside of requirement analysis. I will type all other subtasks, and then we will continue. So now you can see different tasks that were grouped inside of larger stages of the project. You can see that all these tasks, they are 1 day long by default, and all larger steps, they are like black bars, and we can collapse these sections, and it simplifies large projects. For example, if you have many tasks, you can collapse all of them and see the general picture, and then if you need, you can work with details of specific steps. Now let's define duration of all tasks. First of all, we need to estimate how long it can take to do some specific activities. Of course, in real life situation, you will find out that it's not very easy, but you can estimate something, and then you can actually you can update your project when you need it. So market research will take, for example, 1 week, 7 days. Brainstorming is 1 day. Feature list probably 2 days. Cost analysis 3 days. Graphical user interface features list is, for example, 4 days. Feature priority setting is like 2 days. Architecture definition 6 days. Specification development is long process, 8 days. And design of graphical user interface, it can take, for example, 10 days. This is not a real life situation, so we can define any durations that we want. It's for educational purposes, of course. So we imagine that we need to code 3 modules according to our feature list, and in this situation we define different durations like 15 days. Second module can be more difficult, 25 days. Coding module 3 is like 10 days, simpler one. Coding graphical user interface, let's imagine it's 8 days. Documenting is 10 days. Then testing, 10 days. Integration testing, 5 days. System testing, 5 days. Acceptance testing is 6 days. And deployment, 4 days. So we have on our right side, we have Gantt chart. Gantt chart is a very popular tool to see how your project is going, and it shows duration of all tasks, and it shows duration of total project. And here you can see that one task, that is the longest one, is shown in red. Red shows here the critical path. Critical path is the overall duration of the project defined by the sequence of tasks that cannot be shifted in time. Here we have all tasks that are started from the beginning of the project, from the start date we defined on the initial stage. To make it more realistic, we cannot start anything at the same time. We need to do everything in sequence. So we need to define what are the predecessors of all tasks. And first of all, we need to define, and it's easier to define, that we have this sequence of stages. So our design stage is after our requirement analysis stage. So to do this, we have several options. First of all, the easiest one, we just type the number of the task that we want to use as a predecessor of the current task. So in this case, we type 1. And you can see on the right side, our second step of our project cannot start earlier than all tasks from requirement analysis stage finished. So next step is implementation. So we use 7 here. So our design is after our requirements analysis stage, and implementation is after our design stage. Testing is our next step. So we define, for testing we use number 12, and deployment is after testing, so 18. 18 is here. Of course, inside of these large sections we can also set some dependencies. For example, we cannot start brainstorming before we know market situation. For brainstorming, our predecessor will be 2. Again, we can type the number here, or we can use another methods. Maybe easiest one is to use a drag and drop feature. So we just bring our mouse to our Gantt chart and we drag and drop the link from one task to another, and you can see everything moves. Okay, so we have 2 tasks in sequence. After brainstorming, we have our feature list creation, so it's like this, and so on. To make several tasks linked in sequence, we can select several of them and press button called link. And you can see that everything is in sequence. Here on the Gantt chart, you can see that some days are skipped. These are Saturdays and Sundays. Usually they are days off in many countries, so we can use this default calendar. Actually, we can define our own days off and different holidays and so on. We will see it later. So let's define our tasks. These tasks can be done also in sequence, so we select all of them and create a link, so they are in steps. Here in implementation stage we can have parallel tasks that can be done and start at the same moment of time. So let's start them all at the same time, but and actually coding of graphical user interface can be done simultaneously, but documentation can be done only after all modules are ready. So we need to type different predecessors for this task. We can set different and many predecessors for each task. In this situation we need everything from 13 to 16. So we type 13, 14, 15, 16 and type and press enter. So here we have multiple dependency, and documentation stage will start only after end of all coding stages. And then testing also can be done at the same moment of time. So we have our structure of our project. Sometimes you need to define some important points that are important for your project, but they have no duration. In this situation, you can set 0 length for them. Usually such points are called milestones, and we can define some milestones like finish, and we can say this is duration of 0 days. And you can see that milestones are shown as diamond shapes here, so they are like one dot on timeline of your project. In the same way, you can add a new task for start So insert, type start, and type 0 days. By default, all durations are in days, but you type any kind of value here. For example, you can type 1 hour, and it will automatically calculate it to 0.125 days. So it means that 1 hour is 1/8 of usual 8 hours working day. I will undo that. So we have 2 milestones, and let's say that finish is after our deployment. So 24 is a predecessor here. And you can see this is our last step. Okay, we have our project structure defined, and now we can set different aspects of project implementation, for example, different calendars. To work with calendar, you need to press a button called calendar, and here you can see this window, and you see a list of default calendars. The first one is standard, then 24 hours and night shift. In each calendar you can define working time and different days off if you need to change something in default settings. For example, we have all these days, so this is current calendar. We have Saturday and Sunday as days off, and we have a usual 8 hours working day every day from Monday to Friday. So you can see it's from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. So usual traditional working day. To change that, you can select one day. If you need to change only one day, you can change it. For example, you can create short day, so you just type another value here and click OK. So I will undo that. To work with all days, for example, you need to create, for example, short day each Friday. So you click on F, and you can see all Fridays were selected. And now you define values for all Fridays. For example, you can make them shorter. For example, 15. So this is value for our new schedule. Also, you can create new calendar. It's needed when you want to set specific schedule for your workers that is not traditional. Sometimes changing calendars can cause some problems in this software. For example, sometimes it's easier to change default calendar, standard one, to avoid some mistakes and bugs. Let's return to information window and see what can be changed here. First of all, we can change manager name, start and finish date. Finish date now it's calculated automatically. We can set current date and status date. It will be needed for checking the progress of our project. Here we can set priority of the project. Sometimes you need to manage several projects in the same time. Then you can check different types of projects. For example, we can select product development here, division, group, net present value, benefit, and so on. So it's important for calculation of performance of your project. And here we can see statistics. Overall duration of our project is 92 days, and remaining duration is 92 days because we have no current date set. So we have a current date that is earlier than start of the project. And you can add some notes to your project, any kind of information here. Sometimes you need additional features enabled in this list, so you can add some fields or columns here. To do that, you need to press right mouse button and click Insert Column. And in this drop-down list, you can change a lot of different possible columns, and some of them are very useful. For example, you can set deadlines. So let's find deadline. Okay, and for example, for our first task, like market research, we can set this deadline. Actually, we can move this column to a more convenient place. So for our market research, we can set deadline. For example, it will be 23rd of April. And you can see on Gantt chart, deadline is shown as special yellow diamond. It's useful if you have some external deadlines, for example, set by your top management or government. It can be used for tax payments, it can be used for reporting dates, and so on. Next very helpful column here is slack. Slack shows how many potential movement each task can have. So we can insert column and we define so-called free slack. Free slack. Okay, and you can see that for many tasks it's 0 because they are going one by one without any possible movement, and some tasks like this one, coding module 3 and coding module 1 and coding graphical user interface, they are parallel, so we can move them. For example, this task can start later, like this. Actually, you can see that we can change start duration of any task because we can set additional constraints for any kind of task. So now you can see that some tasks can have this slack. To show total slack in our Gantt chart, we can right-click it and then bar styles total slack. And you can see this special type of lines that are showing you that some tasks can be shifted in the time. We can go to properties of each task by double-clicking each row, and this special window will open. It has several tabs. First one is general, so you define duration, you define priority, this is work, in hours it's calculated. Then predecessors, if you have any predecessors set, you can set successors, you can set resources. On advanced tab, you can set different constraints, for example, as soon as possible, that is default one, and you can change it, for example, as late as possible. You can see inside of this slack period, this task can be moved to the right side, and it can end simultaneously with the longest parallel task. And you can see different other options. I will left it as usual, so as soon as possible. And you can change type, so fixed units or fixed duration, sometimes it's needed. And value method, so by percentage or physical percentage completed. It's needed for monitoring the progress. And also you can add nodes. So let's assign some resources to our tasks. They can be of different type, work, materials, and so on. So we go to resource tab of our toolbar and click resources. And the window changes, and we can add some resources. Let's add some employees. Let's call first employee John, then George, then Alice, and Elizabeth. So you can set names and resource types. In ProjectLibre we have only two types, so it's material or work. If you define work, so you need to define also a standard rate per 1 hour of usage of this resource. So for example, these employees will be like $30 per hour. You can change everything in this table or double click it and change everything here. So it's almost the same. So let's define everything. 25. And you can set group. So for example, it will be development group, design group, Then again development and design. Also, you can add overtime rate. So if your worker is working after 8 hours per day, and the cost per use. For example, some transportation cost each day that worker is used. In this situation, you can add like 100 or let's say $10 of costs. So it will be $10 per usage. Now let's go back to our Gantt chart view. And in this view, we can assign resources. So we can set the responsible people who are working with our project stages. Let's imagine that we have only designers and developers, so we have no marketers, no business people, so just developers and designers. To assign resources, we have several options. First is to double-click task, go to a tab called Resources, press button. We can select a row with name of our employee and click Assign. Now we can see all resources added and all tasks were assigned to specific workers. And now we can see that some tasks changed their duration. For example, graphical user interface design was 10 days and now it's 5. It's because we added 2 resources. And by default, tasks are effort driven. It means that duration is defined by quantity of work needed. You can change that if you have some technological processes that are fixed in duration and they are not dependent on efforts or quantity of work needed. To change that, you need to uncheck effort driven and check to fixed duration. And you go to General tab and change it back to 10 days. So we can see that we can change it if we need it. Now we have our project, overall duration of it. Go to information and overall duration here is 78 days. It's after our changes. Now we have a situation when we created some basic plan and we can make a snapshot of it. To do that, we need to click Save Baseline here and check one of the possible variants, for example baseline 1, and click OK. And you can see that it shows on Gantt chart also. This is a snapshot and you can see difference between this basic variant of your plan and your future changes of your project. So task now is to change duration of some tasks that cause over allocation of resources. For example, we can see that in situation when we have parallel tasks, John is involved in one task and a second task. So he is used twice at the same time. It's impossible to do in real world, of course, so we need to change that. It's called leveling of resources. So we go to histogram mode, and in histogram mode we can see a special chart that are synchronized with our Gantt chart, and we click our resource name, John, and we can see that John is overallocated on this part of our project when we have coding of different modules. We have different options to fix this situation, and the easiest one is to change predecessors. So we can set that task of coding module 1 is a predecessor of task of coding module 3. So John can do both these tasks and do this in sequence. So for coding 3, we change predecessor for 14. And now you can see that if we select John, we have no problem here, but we have problem in another place with tasks related to testing. Again, we can see that John is involved in unit testing and integration testing. There are several possible ways to do some fixes for this situation. The easiest one, of course, to remove John from employees involved in one type of testing, and this will save our time. Of course, it can be problematic if our task is strictly requiring some workforce, but in this situation, let's imagine that it's possible. We have similar situation with Alice at the same place. Alice is involved in unit testing, system testing, and acceptance testing. And I think in this situation we need to set a predecessors, and it will be the easiest way to fix this sequence of tasks. So for system testing we set 20, and for 23 we set 22. Now we have select Alice, and we have no problems here, but we have problems earlier, again on development stage. Alice is involved in the coding of module 2 and the coding of graphical user interface. So again, for graphical user interface we can set predecessor number 15 is our coding of module 2, and we select Alice again, and we have no problems. Load is 100%. Let's go to other resources. For George, everything is okay. For Elizabeth, everything is okay. And for John, everything is okay. This process is called leveling of resources, and usually in ProjectLibre it's done manually, because we have no special function to do it automatically. In more advanced software like Microsoft Project, there is a button for automatic leveling of resources, and you can set separate rules for different resources, how they can be leveled. Another very important feature for our project is monitoring the progress. Progress in ProjectLibre can be set for each specific task. To do that, first of all, we need to set several parameters for our project. So we go to File, Information, General, and we change status date to date that is after beginning of the project. So our project starts on Monday, so we can set Tuesday as current date, and you can see a very thin green line showing the current status date, and current date is also the same. So we can close this window. Now we can go to task, double click it, and change %complete to, for example, 35%. It's better to go to another field to set this property, so it's active. Now we can close this window, and we can see that a special black bar is showing over the red bar of our task. It shows the progress. One more additional useful feature is cost of the project. So we can click Insert Column, and we can select Actual Cost. And actual cost is cost we have spent. So we have completed the task, and this is 35% of first task, and this is $616. So this is actual cost that has been already calculated for tasks that were completed or partially completed. If you want to calculate overall cost of our project that is expected, we can add special column that is called cost, and now we have overall cost of each task. This cost is estimated on the basis of hourly rate and usage of each resource. The overall information about cost of the project is shown in information window, so you can see cost of all project, cost of finished tasks, remaining cost, and so on. Also, you can see that duration of our project is longer than we expected at the first time, and you can see it here, and you can see it in our Gantt chart view. You can disable histogram. You can see that our baseline is finished earlier than our total duration of project after resource leveling. So now you know how to manage simple projects in ProjectLibre. Thank you for your attention, and see you later.